There is a brewing quarterback controversy, competition, whatever you want in San Francisco.
What can you tell us about Brock Purdy? How's he doing?
The progression is continuing. He's out there on the practice field, and we try to keep giving him a little more, and he's making good progress. He's doing more this week. We'll evaluate at the end of the week and see where we go.
Mac Jones has been absolutely sensational in his time.
I think they're probably saying, look, Brock, until you're 100%, well, when is that? At some point, Brock, I suspect, would say, hey, enough, I'm playing. And so I feel like if Brock could somehow play, he would force the issue. I would. Yeah. I would force it publicly. I'd force it privately. I would make it happen.
Are 49er fans being gaslit by the San Francisco 49ers front office as it relates to Brock Purdy's injury? Based on the information that we know, something seems off. Seems a little fishy. At the very minimum, 49er fans are being deceived about when Brock Purdy is actually going to get back on the field. When's the guy going to play? So, had to jump on here. I truly believe something else is going on that we're going to talk about. So with that being said, back at it talking 49ers football. Let's get into it, y'all. Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Ryan Tigey, back in action. As I mentioned from the jump, something seems off about the San Francisco 49ers when it comes to Brock Purdy's injury. As we all know, Brock Purdy, through week 9, has played in 2 games. Mac Jones, the backup quarterback going into the season, has played 7 games and has a record of 5-2, which is unbelievable. But when we take a look at Brock Purdy specifically, the turf toe injury. The turf toe injury is quite the mystery, which I believe is what is providing cover for the front office and the coaching staff to continue on with Mac Jones. Hell, when a quarterback is going 5-2, it's probably a guy you don't want to get off from when your team has momentum and you're currently sitting at 6-3, fighting to be atop your division. And the 49ers are kind of in a unique position relative to other coaches and GMs around the NFL. When you think about it, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan came in together as the tandem head coach GM duo with the 49ers. They both have been there now for quite some time. One of the things, and it's been well reported, that the 49ers, specifically John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, don't necessarily have to worry about, potentially like other coaches and GMs would. They're not on the hot seat. They have buy-in from ownership. They don't have to worry about getting fired or moved on from after this season. We know that they're safe, as they should be, but that does put them in a unique position to make moves that other coaches or ownership may not feel comfortable with. One being the most important position on the field, quarterback, especially after you just pay a quarterback over $200 million this past offseason, and yet the guy is still on the sideline. So one, I think that is a clear, decisive differential between the San Francisco 49ers and their unique situation relative to other teams, coaches, and GMs around the league. They're not worried about shit. They're good. They know they'll be back next season. So what does that mean? That means they have the ability to make better decisions that they feel is the best for their team. They're only doing what they're doing right now currently because they believe wholeheartedly that this is the best for the team. Now, do we know for sure Brock Purdy could go out there and play and be totally fine with the turf toe injury? No. But there are some unique things that have come out and that we've seen since Brock Purdy's been out of games. It just seems a little off. Like we're not being told what's really going on because, again, I think there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes where the 49ers essentially are trying to save face and particularly protect their quarterback that they just paid $200 million to this past offseason and is the franchise guy. We all know Brock Purdy, he is the franchise quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. So again, it leads me, why wouldn't they be playing him? We know what Brock Purdy can do on the football field. He has been dominant. He's been a beast. He's been a weapon since becoming the starter for the San Francisco 49ers. You don't take teams to the NFC Championship game, to the Super Bowl, if you ain't good. Brock Purdy, we all know, is a really good quarterback. In particular, a really good quarterback for this Kyle Shanahan offense. So we know that that needs to be said. But again, If there is one coach across the NFL, in particular, that rides with the hot hand and has the cachet to do it internally from ownership and his staff, it's Kyle Shanahan. There is really not too many other good examples of coaches that they're just willing to move off guys, particularly franchise guys and ones that are getting paid a large amount of money. We know Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, they've proven it before, and it's a relatively recent thing. They traded 3 first-round draft picks to go up and pick Trey Lance in the draft. We all saw it. We were fired up about it. I'm still bummed it didn't work out, but it didn't. Kyle Shanahan had no issue pivoting to Brock Purdy. And again, yes, we know Kyle Shanahan clearly saw something in Brock for him to feel comfortable enough to make that choice. And thankfully he had Brock Purdy there, but that proves giving all that capital. If Brock Purdy didn't work out, there was probably going to be an issue for Kyle Shanahan, but it did. And so that saved both Kyle and John Lynch from continuing on being one of the longest 10-year GM and head coach in the NFL with the 49ers. But what we've seen, he does it with running backs. Although we know Christian McCaffrey, ever since he's come in, he has gotten the majority of the load, but we've seen Kyle ride with the hot hand. He talks about it in press conferences, riding with the hot hand. And you don't think a coach who is well known from fans and league experts that this is a QB-friendly offense. A lot of it is predicated on timing, not necessarily having to make all, audibles at the line, making all these different adjustments. You know decisively where you need to go with the ball and in what order you need to go through your reads. Everyone talks about Kyle Shanahan offense being quarterback friendly. And that's why we've seen Kyle Shanahan have success with Jimmy G, with Brock Purdy, with Mac Jones. That clearly is a good indicator that, hey, his offense works for a lot of quarterbacks. It just does. And it's well documented. And that's why you see other teams try to mimic it across the league. So if Kyle Shanahan openly talks about riding with a hot hand, you don't think right now with the production that he's getting Mac Jones, just putting up 34 points going up against the Giants, being 5-2 since becoming a starter, that Kyle Shanahan's just like, we'll put back in Brock Purdy? No, I don't think so. Wholeheartedly, I believe if Mac Jones wasn't playing good football and the offense looked like shite, Brock Purdy would be playing. You see Brock Purdy traveling with the team to games. And I know all the pressers from Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they've recently come out and kind of emphasized a talking point that, hey, this is Brock Purdy's team.
Kyle's been very clear, as we all, this is Brock's team when he's healthy.
Of course they're going to say that. They paid the guy a shit ton of money, and he's the franchise quarterback. They ain't getting out of that. But in the interim, riding with Mac Jones, who's 5-2, who just beat the Rams when he had no weapons in, who the 49ers play again this upcoming Sunday. No, I think Kyle Shanahan is looking at this. Look, we don't know how Brock Purdy's toe is going to react. That's their talking point. He could re-injure himself. And I think there's just a lot of deception going on. I truly believe it's simple. They like what they're seeing from Mac Jones. They like the production they're getting from the offense. They're going to keep with Mac Jones. But with this turf toe injury, they have the cover to say it's a non-visible injury, but you see him traveling with the team. People that are seriously injured, i.e. Nick Bosa, they're not traveling with the team. They are staying back at the facility to work on rehab and speed up the process as quick as possible. We don't see Brandon Ayuk traveling with the team during away games. But Brock Purdy, he is. Hell, in the most recent interview from John Lynch, he talked about Brock Purdy potentially being able to suit up and be a backup quarterback this Sunday going up against the Rams.
John, is there any scenario where you guys would suit up Brock Purdy to be the backup quarterback?
If he's healthy, I think that's everything's predicated on the health. And if we felt like that was a next step in allowing him to get healthy, but maybe, at some point that could be the next step towards getting back to that number one spot. So I think everything's available to us, and we'll do what's in the best interest of Brock and in the best interest of our team.
There's been discussions prior to this talking about Brock Purdy may being available to be an emergency quarterback or QB2 if absolutely need be. If Brock Purdy has the ability to be a backup quarterback, that is proof in itself right there. Kyle Shanahan is saying we're rolling with the hot hand, and that hot hand is Mac Jones. And again, they have cover from ownership. We know that. But they also have cover from the fans and all the pundits out there that are reporting on them, because the turf toe injury, it's a mysterious beast. You can't visibly see it, but you can say he's not 100% healthy, but we see him at practice. Brock Purdy is at practice. He is practicing. Yes, sometimes in a limited role, but you see the videos out there. He's throwing the football. He's moving around good. It doesn't look like his toe is all that bad. Now, again, who really knows what Brock Purdy is feeling? But to me, who's somebody who vigorously watches the San Francisco 49ers, I listen to every press conference. I listen to every update. I love the 49ers. I'm all in. I've been in my whole life. And so seeing the sense the Kyle Shanahan regime has taken over, I am just starting to believe wholeheartedly that it's a simple choice that they're making right now. They can't say Brock Purdy is 100% healthy, so that gives them cover to say we're rolling with Mac Jones. Why would Kyle Shanahan want to move off Mac Jones right now with the way he's performing, the way he's commanding the offense? Hell, the way the locker room talks about Mac Jones. We all see his funny, kinky personality. He seems like a great dude, but he's also a warrior. The guy constantly gets hit, looks like he's injured, gets back in the game, and is throwing tuds like it's nobody else's business. So I think it's really quite simple. They're rolling with the hot hand, and that hot hand is Mac Jones. And then also, to further my point, you recently heard Steve Young on a KMBR interview talking about how if Brock Purdy is healthy, he needs to force the issue to play like Steve Young did with Joe Montana back in the day. Steve Young basically said, if Brock Purdy wants to play, he should be publicly and privately saying, I'm going to play, to put pressure on the team. Because you got to imagine, as Brock Purdy, yes, he's financially set, but as purely a competitor, it must really be hard as a mental game for him not to feel great that Mac Jones is out there slicing and dicing the vast majority of teams he comes across. And also, just in the recent past, Brock Purdy, he rushed himself back, went up against the Jaguars, and played atrocious. It was bad. He did not look great at all. And then you come to find out he just re-aggravated it and probably made it worse with his toe. So that, again, provides additional cover for Shanahan and Lynch to say, hey, look, he tried getting back out there. It's probably a little bit too early, but we saw the performance. He was rusty. He did not look good. The offense was not efficient. It was just bad. He shouldn't have played that game, but he did. And I'm sure that was the competitor in Brock Purdy wanting to play, saying he's good to go. They need to have the best person out there available. And Brock Purdy's rust and his most recent history of playing, coming back from a turf toe, just missing a game or two, did not look great. Why interrupt the flow that Mac Jones is in, the players around him? Because guess what? It's working. And kind of my final thought on this is, we've all heard it recently. They were talking about Brock Purdy potentially coming back for the New York Giants game, right? But no, what did we hear? It's the turf field. MetLife Stadium, the turf field, caused a lot of injuries. Unfortunately, it did cause an injury. Mikael Williams out for the season, ACL. Of course, that happened. But they were talking about Brock Purdy could potentially come back from MetLife Stadium to play against the New York Giants. But no. The turf, we don't want Brock Purdy playing on that turf. Okay, great. So now what's the deal? Now the 49ers are going up against the LA Rams at Levi's, which we all know is a grass stadium. And yet Brock Purdy still not ready to go? They say the same thing every week. He's getting better. He's doing a little bit more in practice, seeing how he holds up, and then we evaluate at the end of the week. But what the most striking thing that I heard from John Lynch's KMBR radio interview that he did on November 6th was that all options are open. Brock Purdy could potentially be a backup quarterback. I'm telling you right now, if Brock Purdy actually is suited up on the sideline as QB2, that is your answer. They have determined Mac Jones gives them the best opportunity to win, and that's why they're rolling with Mac Jones. You don't have your franchise quarterback making over $200 million as a backup, unless there's a guy they believe in more that's in the building and is currently playing. And that guy is Mac Jones. So I just had to jump on here, give my 2 cents. And I'm not even going into the Brandon Ayuk situation, okay? Because we're hearing the same thing from John, from Kyle, that we've been hearing about Brock Purdy, they're saying it's the same playbook that they're using for Brandon Ayuk. He's progressing. He's getting better week after week. He's doing a little bit more. He hasn't hit his markers. His practice window can open up any week now, but yet the practice window never opens up, at least not yet, as the 49ers are going into week 10 of the NFL season. So it just seems like there's a little deception going on, and potentially the 49ers fans are just getting gaslit as it relates to Brock Purdy. But you've seen it. They don't have too much of an uprising because winning cures all, which the 49ers have been doing. And they have a fantastic cover story with a mysterious toe injury that definitely affects a quarterback. And then again, no pressure from the ownership. And again, full circle, it's because they're winning. And Mac Jones is the guy that's leading the helm. But be on the lookout for Brock Purdy. If he's QB2, it's a definitive answer that they believe in Mac right now, currently more than Brock Purdy. That's just a fact. But I still think it's really quite simple when you boil it all down, strip away all the bullshit that we hear, all the different narratives. I think truly Kyle Shanahan just wants to roll with the hot hand, and that hot hand is Mac Jones. So let me know in the comments, what do you guys think? Is Brock Purdy really not ready to play? Or do you believe as well that I think Kyle Shanahan is just going with the quarterback that's winning him games right now? Because again, I truly think if Mac Jones is playing like ass, Brock Purdy, he'd be suiting up for this football game. And it sounds like right now he's not going to be playing. And if he is suited up, he might be QB2. So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think Brock Purdy's healthy enough to play? Do you think they're rolling with the hot hand of Mac Jones? Or do you think Brock Purdy is legitimately still injured and not healthy enough to play? Let me know in the comments. But all right, y'all, I'll be back. But until my next video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. Hit me up. Peace.